one of the marvelous things in Bremer's work on Bavinck um, is his historical work in locating Bavinck as a contemporary of Kuyper, and also tracing in Feinhoff's work, also tracing the relationship between Bavinck and his contemporary theologians, the other movements of theological interest at the time, so the ethical theologians, as they were called. But when you read these books, it soon becomes apparent that they're much more historical in their focus than works of analysis on the structure of Bavinck's theology, which is not to say that they don't write about his theology, because they do. But there's even a sentence where Feinhoff acknowledges this trait in Bremer's work, just in the beginning of his monograph. And I remember reading that statement and thinking that that was a very insightful comment. And it directed me towards really first base, if you like, as to where Bavinck studies needs to continue to progress. And I think James Eglinton's monograph was a very helpful step in the right direction, drawing attention to the prominence of the organism motif, drawing attention to the Trinitarian character of Bavinck's thought. These are the sorts of steps that need to be made, one after the other, tracing out the character of Bavinck's thought. But when you ask that question, what does Bavinck even understand by the word theology? Quite quickly, system comes to the surface. And then when you trace out what does he mean by system, it's quite interesting what then comes to the surface. And as one could expect, he says that makes it an organism. And what makes that statement quite interesting is that it's then linked to ideas of central dogma. So the historical work of people like Schweitzer in the 19th century, analyzing theological traditions according to a governing principle that kind of controls Lutheran thinking and Reformed thinking. Bavinck fully embraces that. So when he thinks of system, it's an ordered structure of thinking which is governed by a central principle, which gives you direct entree to the concept of organism as it's developed by the German idealists, or the first generation of post-Kantian idealists. And one last thing to say about that is that what makes this really interesting is that Bavinck wants to connect system and organism, that he's already doing something quite synthetic with those ideas, because when you press into Schelling, necessity and organism are antithetical categories. So Bavinck is actually making further steps, taking these ideas as they're developed by Hegel and Schelling and actually wanting to do something with them. So like a resourcement philosophy, if you like. So almost as soon as one's asked those questions, one's thrust into this very 19th century world and very 19th century way of thinking. And I think that's very important to understanding what's going on with Bavinck. He is not simply dusting off the pages of 17th century Reformed Orthodox theologians. He's very much a modern theologian in that sense that he's embracing a great deal of critical scholarship of his age, that he's attempting to bring this into conversation with Orthodox Christianity. So when he will talk about his own project, quite tellingly, he says everybody's a mediating theologian, meaning everybody is attempting to reconcile the developments of modern culture as he'd been experiencing them as a European scholar. Everybody's trying to reconcile these advances in philosophy, history, science, industry, commerce, this new world which has emerged in Western Europe with the faith that was handed down from the apostles, right down to the modern period. So this very complex picture and confluence of traditions and confluence of thought, streams of thought. This emerges almost just by simply scratching the surface of the word system or the word theology. So very, very soon you get an idea of where the further work needs to be done in understanding Bavinck as a 19th century thinker.